first thing on the work session that you wanted on here was the speeding on Tarrentine. Who wants to speak up first?
That was actually the one that Elizabeth was interested in. We've done a little preliminary studies about that a while back, you remember?
Mm-hmm.
And we put it off saying well, funds weren't available at that point. We've had several people complain about it, so I don't know whether it's time now for us to move on to do something, if anything's possible or not.
Well, one thing that we did do is, through several contacts to the Sheriff's Department, they're out here more than I've ever seen them before.
Yeah, I've noticed that too.
Quite a bit. And hopefully that'll help. But, so you want to look at the possibility of the speed radar sign again?
Well, I remember Elizabeth said something about a camper, but I thought maybe speed bumps. But Ms. Polly was telling me about y'all had some once before.
Right, and we can't have those because the county helped us put in the asphalt, and if that be the case, then there's a liability with the speed bumps, and we can't have them. Now,
like them
there's
anyway.
some other kinds that, and I think all of you met Mr. Sears, and he'll go into a little bit more detail and explain to you about them if you'd like, but every time, when we had the speed bumps before, it was nothing but constant complaining. But we looked at what Polly's referring to several months ago. We looked into the possibilities of the radar signs that show you speed. And at the time, we decided to hold off a little bit because of funding. If you'd like to look in on it again, we can.
Did you ever contact the county? You said you at one time you were going to contact the county about borrowing one of theirs.
We did, and we are on the list, but he said, you're so far down, so it's probably gonna be a while, and we hadn't seen it yet. This is our new attorney.
Hey. Hi.
And we just had started talking about speeding on Tarrentine.
Yes.
So you might want to come forward with your question that you had or comments.
Yeah, now that the weather's getting nice, people want to be out walking and enjoying the weather, and it's hard to do with the speeding. So, one of my neighbors had approached me and, had mentioned concern about it, and so I would like to start some sort of, committee, of residents that, we just get together and figure out how we're gonna address it, what to do.
Well, we got a good committee sitting right here.
Yeah, well,
So, that's what we were just talking about. Here several months ago, we looked at getting the radar signs, and at the time we passed it over because of the cost.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to help, at least for a while. We do have more presence. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but the sheriff has been out here much, much more than he ever has.
it's between the hours of 5:30 and 6 to 7:30, and then in the evenings. It's not during the day. It's people cutting through to and from work.
So it's starting at 5 and 6 in the morning?
Mm-hmm. That's when my husband leaves, and yeah.
I did not tell them that. I didn't understand that it was a problem that early in the morning.
It is. It's people coming to and from work.
And high school at night.
It's really not bad in the afternoons, but then again, I'm at work. I'm really rarely there in the afternoon. But in the mornings and in the evenings, it's bad.
Well, I'll recontact the Sheriff's Department and give them that information. I did not. I told them primarily after school let out as when it was worse. Also, do you want to look at, again, the radar sign. Have
I
you-
forgot now how much they cost, but they were pretty expensive as I remember.
There'll be anywhere from $1,200 to $1,600 the ones that we were looking at that we could afford, but they are movable. You put up the post and you just change the box from one post to the other. So you could have it one place one week, and somewhere else the next week, and so forth. If it sits in the same place all the time, they tend to ignore it after a while. So, if y'all want to explore that possibility again, we will.
Is it possible, because I do know they're here a lot, but they're also up at the Baptist church, sometimes as many as 2 cars sitting up there, to ask them when they come to sit in a specific spot that we already know is a problem?
Yeah, I told them where the main problem was.
Yeah,
They'll stop at the stop sign going south, and then when they come away from the four-way stop here at Main Tarrentine, they floorboard it and just fly by the time they get to your house. Yeah. Now, the sheriff's deputies have been sitting a lot right up here between this building and the next, or up to the next opening, where they can see the intersection, but that's not where they're doing the speeding.
no, it's not.
The speeding is further on out. So,
We also have the problem with 2 of our streets don't come in at a right angle. They come in so it's an easy curve. So because it's the curve, they don't even have to slow down to turn in. If it was a 45 degree, they would have to slow down to make it.
talked to DOT, of course, at length about that in the past, and their solution was to close off Tarrentine on the north end entirely.
You know,
And I said, no, because they can't just come up there and change the intersection to come in at a 90-degree angle
Yeah.
without going in. They don't do anything halfway. They want to take that whole hump down for about 200 yards back. And it's on a list, but let me tell you, it's so far down the list, it won't see the light for a long time.
Well, you know, the one at the post office at my corner is the same way. It's not a right angle, so they come flying from the traffic light, don't even slow down to come in there. I don't even let her get off the bus except down from my house. They come around that corner so fast.
Yeah. What is your wishes as to whether or not we re-examine the radar?
I mean, yeah, I'd like to know more about it, but, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, we'll investigate it and get figures and
Yeah.
all that for you.
Do we know of any citations that the sheriff's office has written for speeding or anything in the city?
I don't know that. I can find out. I think I can, I don't know.
And do we get any of the revenue from that, or does it go straight to the county?
Goes to the county, we don't get any of that. Mr. Sears, have you had any experience with the radar as to working, not working, efficiency, anything about it?
You talking about the speed radar, not the radar sign?
It's a sign that, detects their speed and shows
Right,
it.
well, as far as the signage is concerned, the average speed in the ones that I'm familiar with tend to stabilize, like you said, for a short period of time. But if mentally people see it and they think somebody's gonna stop me, so they slow down. All right, and I'm talking about the average person, not the person who only occasionally speeds and the sign's a good thing to remind them to stop. And what happens is, once in their mind they quit seeing that, then it loses the effectiveness.
Yeah.
And that's why they'll leave them up, 3 months, and then take them down and move them somewhere else, and then bring them back, so.
One of my concerns is that some of the people that are violators, they say, wow, man, I made it up to 50 miles an hour yesterday, I'm gonna try for 70.
There are those out there that have been documented that they want to see how fast they can get on the sign.
Right.
And because they know it skews I've rarely seen anyone who would go slower to skew the sign.
All right, well then, I'll look into the possibility and have it ready for you at the next meeting, is reference to signs, and then you can decide at that point what you want to do. So,
Okay, and I think,
Can we look at, I know we had speed bumps several years ago, and then when we repaved, that was taken off the table. Could we do the extended speed humps, where it's like the ramp and then it comes up a little bit, then it comes back down? I see them in residential areas all the time, and that's about as residential as we got. It may be more cost effective to put one of those speed humps right past Church Street, right between your house and Church Street, and that way slow them as they're about halfway down.
yeah, well, Mr. Sears and I were talking about it earlier, and I don't know if we can get that through or not because of the liability problem. Do you have a,
Well, anytime you do anything in the street that changes the flat condition creates a liability issue. And what, you have to just make sure the painting is done correctly, the signage is put up correctly, that the signage is maintained, and that the humps are maintained.
right,
So it goes beyond, because if you don't, if somebody comes and knocks down one of the signs and it's not there, then you've got a liability problem. So,
and as he was mentioning, some of them use it like a ramp
right.
to, you know, try to shoot off the other side. So we would have to find out what our liability was, because they said absolutely no to the speed bumps.
Right, I remember
Yeah.
that, yeah.
But,
Well, of course, you see, there are some places that still use the little speed bump, but those are primarily in shopping centers that still use them. There are areas in North Fulton that still use them, but the problem is they put them every 20 feet.
Yeah.
So it's a constant, and I guess up around Chastain Park, you'll find them. But those are in areas, and they put them every 20 feet. Well, if you put them every 20 feet, then you've got to have somebody go out there almost weekly to check them, make sure the signage is up, make sure the bumps are up. So some people have had success with that, but it does create additional expense anytime you put some of those. Now,
and liability.
I'll carry it one step further. And I don't know what you look at from the standpoint of your SPLOST money to take it. There are other speed calming initiatives that are out there that, depending on the width of the right-of-way and all that you have, and as an example of that are the bump outs. All right, and you've got the bump outs, and of course you've probably read in the paper all the complaints about the bump outs, and sometimes you actually have to go in there and redo the bump outs. But it is a speed calming device that if you talk about the intersections, that as you're coming down the road, that you see, you know, that the road narrows and you have to slow down to be able to negotiate through that. So there are other designs, but that, of course, would take a traffic engineer. What you'd want to do before you even consider the speed humps is get a traffic engineer to come in and evaluate the road and tell you where those would even go and what the effectiveness of them would be or would not be before you would even do it.
Right. They use those quite a bit in Europe, where they have the island in the middle and you have to go around, and you have to slow down to go around that curve. That might be a good idea. We'll talk to IS&E and see if that might be something they could do for us at a reasonable fee.
What if you had a sign that restricted through traffic during certain hours of the day? I know there's a road over by Noonan High School that's a residential area, and it's posted that through traffic is prohibited during a certain time of day. My mom was actually given a citation for going through there during that certain time of day.
yeah.
But that's an idea because there really isn't any need for anybody to go down this road unless they live on it, because you have 154 and 54 that connects. So it could be that you could post it from 7:30 to 9, and 3:30 to 6 or whatever.
Yeah,
That would be restricted to, just say restricted, no through traffic.
yeah.
Well, yeah, we would have a heck of a time enforcing.
You mean the two sheriff cars that stay parked up here in the parking lot all day long and don't do anything?
Right.
Couldn't come in here and help you enforce it?
I tried telling them through the sheriff, but I didn't approach them directly. But no, they're up there. That church parking lot's not gonna go anywhere. It's well protected.
I think everybody knows they're there too.
That'd be a great place for
They're
them.
guarding the cemetery.
You know, what if we hired an
That's it,
off-duty
they're afraid they'll
officer?
escape, they'll escape.
What if we hired an off-duty officer to sit out in front of the library, maybe 2 days a week for about 2 hours? They're about $30 an hour, that'd be $60, $120 a week, and do it every other week for about a month, 6 weeks. That'd slow them down. Just have them sit out there with a radar gun and stand there.
Is that illegal? Can we do that? I like that.
I mean,
You might be able to, you'd have to work that out with the sheriff.
Yeah,
and just pay them to stand there.
I like it.
Or what we do is we find somebody that's retired with a Crown Vic and give them a hair dryer, wrap it up with electrical tape, have them stand there. Private citizen on their own time.
Oh, my.
We've got several good ideas, and I like that one.
I like that one, Bill DeVaugh.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the only problem with it is that's a cost that never ends. With the speed bumps, you can amortize it over a length of time, but with personnel costs, it's.
Now,
But again, like you suggested, if you didn't do it all the time and they never knew when anybody was gonna be there, don't make it systematic, just
Yeah.
today Wednesday, next week Thursday, next week Monday, so they never knew when somebody was gonna be there.
Billy Jack, we could use Billy Jack, and
There you go. He'd stay there with a hair dryer for, he'd probably get him for $20 an hour instead of 30.
Why don't you cut a deal with the sheriff and get somebody you're already paying for?
I don't know if they would do that or not. We did get them to station more patrols out. There's probably 4 times as much as we've ever had before. But these are some pretty good ideas.
One of the things that we talked about was actually see if we could get the road certified and let them run the radar on.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
now whether or not, again, that's the resources of the sheriff's department. Put somebody out there during the time to run the radar. But you would have to get the road certified. That would require getting a traffic engineer to certify the sight distances on the road. And that may be part of what you get ISC to do.
Right.
Now, whether or not the sheriff would do that, you just have to sit down and see.
And I think it would qualify because it's good long visibility and it's flat. You know,
But one of the things that I was thinking of, though, that might be there, was it's my recollection that the speed limit has to be 35 before you can run the radar.
Oops.
So that's why I was asking if what the speed limit on the road was. If it's 25, it won't qualify for radar.
well, we wouldn't hurt ourselves by raising it to 35 because right now they're doing
Yeah,
65.
65, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's, but we just have to check on that with them.
Right, yes, check. Got a lot to check out. Good stuff. Thanks, everybody, appreciate it.
Could you just make the whole thing no through traffic all the time?
Well, there again, you got an enforcement problem.
Yes, but you could enforce it for 2 or 3 months.
Well, you have to get the sheriff's department to enforce.
Yeah.
Okay, if everybody's satisfied with that so far, we'll go to the next item on the agenda, is the signs that are out of compliance. We've had a lot of discussion, several of us one-on-one, so let's, right here, while everybody's listening, let's talk about it.
I ask it be there, because it's not being enforced uniformly. Some people are following it and some are not, and the ones that are not, nothing happens, and the ones that are trying to enforce it complain. They want it to be treated equally. And so that was why I brought it to the attention of the council, so that we can decide what we go do.
Right. We've talked about it, we talked about it with Sears, and several ways of approaching. We've got to decide, as we talked about on several occasions, if we're going to make it retroactive all the way back, or if we're going to have a cutoff date and everything before is treated different from those from here on.
Can I ask the attorney a question? Which way are we least likely to get in trouble?
Well, I don't think you get in trouble trying to enforce your ordinance, as long as it's been in place. Now, the problem is designating those signs that were non-conforming prior to adoption of the ordinance in '02.
Their end is
Yeah,
not conforming,
versus-
they're allowed.
Yeah, they would be allowed versus those that have been built since '02. If you could go in and come up with a way, and sometimes, you know, you can go look at your licensing on your occupational tax and figure out when certain businesses came in and when certain signs may have been erected. Otherwise, you know, what you do is just, you know, have a start date and treat everything that's out there as being non-conforming, and then and document that, and then go forward with your enforcement. So, you know, it would take someone, if you took them to court, you would have to show that they actually put the sign in place after '02, and that it does not comply with the ordinance.
And Ms. Sears is suggesting that we, on that date that we specify, take pictures of all the signs out there so that we would have proof. And
Say that
anything,
again, start again now, say that
Yeah.
again.
when, like, say it started hypothetically April the 1st.
Oh, okay.
Anything prior to that, and we take pictures on April the 1st of every sign out there. And then later on, we would have some teeth if we did have to go to court on the ones that came in after that that did not live up to the ordinance.
That would require re-adopting the ordinance, making some changes to the sign ordinance for that to go into effect.
What do you think, guys? I think you gotta have some starting points. You can't go back and just write everybody in town a ticket that's got a sign up there that doesn't comply. I don't think you can.
Well, there are not that many, actually. Can we do a date, say, just pick a date, say on St. Patrick's Day? Can we just choose a date and say from this day forward, without changing our ordinance and all that kind of good stuff?
Well, we would change that section of the
Yeah,
ordinance that talks about the non-conforming
yeah,
sign.
yeah.
In other words, the date that's in there now for non-conforming signs would have been the original adoption date in '02. And all you're doing is just changing that date to whatever, 2018.
What are other opinions?
Well, have we passed the enforcement codes yet? Do we have the authority to enforce the ordinances that are on the books, and a judge is allowed to go out there and serve it and inspect it and all that?
We got an ordinance, isn't that authority?
You gotta have someone, you gotta have a code enforcement officer, don't you?
Well, we've got the code enforcement officer, and we have the judge in place that could enforce it, yes. So we have the teeth behind it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fee schedule and all that.
Let me ask you a question. Does the ordinance include any sort of criteria for, like, if somebody changes a sign, they have to bring it up to the current code? Or if they repair a sign, bring it up to the current code?
Yeah.
Or change hands?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if
You're
it
covered
changed,
from all that?
just like any other non-conforming entity, if that business ceased to be and somebody else came in, they would have to bring it up to code. you can't replace one non-conforming with another. So, yeah, they would have to, and what you'll find happen is that those signs are going to play out. And so then all your signs would comply at some point down the road. They're going to, it's going to happen. They'll all be washed out at some point. We can't right here, but if y'all want to carry this over to the meeting and make a start date, we could do that.
Let's talk about a start date then. How does, that's just me. Does it suit
We can
everybody
do
else?
that, I mean, because you have to do 2 readings on your ordinance, wouldn't that need to be, or the start date would need to be for the second reading?
Right, what we'll do is have the motion on the floor and vote it on that we are going to do it in that manner. Yeah.
What start date are we gonna pick?
I don't know, I'd say sooner rather than later, but y'all decide.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
If I go out and buy a banner sign and it doesn't comply, and I get it up before your start date, then it's okay.
Yeah,
Is
that's
that
what I'm
what you're
talking
saying?
about. That's why I say it's better earlier than later.
But
'Cause
is that what you're saying?
No,
Tell us what we're saying.
because under the current ordinance, you have to come get a permit, I would think. Do you have to get a permit?
Nobody
So you'd
else
have to get
has.
a
That's
permit.
my gripe, is because nobody else has. They've just done it.
Well, I understand, and that's the issue, but now you're on notice that what's
But
gonna
if
happen.
their
so-
signs are going to comply, and I go before the deadline,
What's the deadline for then? That's what, I'm
Yeah,
thinking, I
what's the
thought it was like
deadline?
she's saying, so what's the deadline for then?
So you have a starting point for the ordinance, the new ordinance.
it's already started then.
Well,
I'm confused.
He just said she was put on notice. So, I guess today's your start date.
I don't think, what's the point then?
what do you mean, what's the point?
What's the point of having a start date?
If we can, if it's already too
Yeah.
late.
Eliminating
if it's already
everything
too
before.
Why don't you just start with 2002 when your ordinance was initially put in?
And you have.
Well,
no
I
record.
would suggest start date be January 1 of 2018. Make it retroactive to the first of the year.
That was my suggestion to you.
Yeah, and I didn't like that because I thought it wasn't fair to the people that were trying to do it correctly, and it was rewarding the people that just did it.
If they want to do it
But I'm
correctly,
going
it's
with
not
what the
going to make
majority
it.
wants.
If
Whatever
they-
they decide, I'm going with.
But if they want to do it correctly, then it doesn't make any difference. They're going to do it right whether, either way.
Well, what Karen's saying is it's never been enforced. Y'all
Right.
talk about code
It's never
enforcement.
been enforced.
There's never been a code enforcement officer come out on these streets and ever, that I've been here, cite anybody for having incorrect signage. Anytime it's ever been brought up, it's been brought up by the residents who've taken note and brought it to council. So then and again, you come back to, you can say January 1st, or you can say today, or whatever. There's no code enforcement officer there to enforce it. There's nobody that says, okay, Mr. Tattoo, you can't do a wall mural. There's nobody that says, Mr. Fridge Frog, you can't have a PVC pipe sign put up. Although all of those have been erected since 2002, no code enforcement officers ever enforced it. So what she's saying is, why even ask for permission? Why not just put it up?
That's it,
Well,
just put it up.
for so long, we didn't have a code enforcement officer, but we do now. So now we've got the code enforcement officer and we have the court that we can turn it over to, which we've not had before. So now, if we can either go on and just leave it alone from now on, or we can approach it and say, all right, we've got to have a starting date and we got to have a stop date.
Or you could just write all those people a letter and tell them to come in and apply.
I mean, you
Well,
have a
that's the
start
option.
date in the original ordinance. That's your start date.
That was what I thought should be done.
And if they didn't comply, they need to.
I mean, you have several options.
I
Is
like
that
what
your-
you just said.
Is that your wishes, that you take every sign down, every one of them, and start with those two? that what you said?
I said, you have the option to enforce the ordinance that you have in place. All right, and you go back to that day and identify all those signs and let the court deal with what, you know, the issue of whether or not they're in compliance and whether or not they were previously grandfathered. Or you can say, okay, we're gonna take all those signs that have been put up since the adoption of the ordinance and then enforce it going forward and treat all those as grandfathered. So you have either option.
I don't know of many businesses that would be grandfathered in, starting from '02.
You'd have, like, the photography, Richards,
Right.
they've had theirs up before that.
And ours.
Yours,
I was thinking
one of
the-
yours, one of
The
yours.
convenience stores
Yeah,
and all
one
these
of
down
ours.
here, they come into play after 2000.
Celine, I'm not in compliance.
The town is
Cynthia, what do you think?
I think we should go back to 2002.
Ma'am,
I think we should go back to 2002 and send letters out. Enforce it. You say we got someone else to enforce it, we got a court to, let's go ahead and do it.
I mean, that would, if you give them the option to remedy the defect, then the first time they don't do it, then you go back the second time they don't do it. The third time you bring them back and they refuse to remedy the defect, then you have more and more evidence. The town is giving you this leeway, we're giving you this opportunity, and by the final time that you don't do it, then you can bring them before the court and the judge, and there's our efforts to educate and inform and follow through.
all the way back? All the way back?
I think it makes it easier that way.
I agree too, it's there.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, you got, remember when the church put their sign in and,
When what?
remember when
Yeah,
Sharpsburg Baptist
they're
Church
taking the sign.
changed their sign? And Mullins had an issue with it, with the lighting, and he made them redo their entire sign and go by the codes.
Right.
I'm just saying that it's, if you make one do it, all of them need to do it. Sharpsburg Baptist Church went through a lot of expense to redo that sign because we decided as a town we were gonna enforce those rules on Sharpsburg Baptist Church.
I forgot
If you
about
do
that.
it for one, you gotta do it for them all. I just think that's the fairest way, and it keeps the town out of trouble when you enforce it equally across the board.
There is one other grandfathered sign in front of the attorney's office. Of course, you have the banner sign on it right now.
In front of the attorney's office,
Change that.
but it changed hands, so it has to comply.
Don't we have a list of business licenses from 2002?
Oh, yes.
Then there's your starting point. Any new business from, that's not on the list of 2002, that's not on 2018, there you go. That gives you a starting point to see who was here in 2002.
Right. That, it's not totally indicative of who had signs that didn't have signs.
But it's a starting point.
Starting point, yes.
Well, they should have had a license, so they shouldn't have a sign if they didn't have a license.
Yeah.
Okay, put it down to come up in the regular meeting, then that we call for a motion.
Well, the one other thing we did talk about is those little builder signs that pop up all over creation.
Right. There again, we've talked about this before. The county allows the builders to put up signs directing to subdivisions Friday evenings if they pick them up Sunday evening. And it was my suggestion that we go along with that, but I'm here talking to council, so council, what is your wishes? What do you like to talk about? You want to say that we go along with the county and we allow it on the weekends, or we go and say absolutely not, don't put them in our town? Give me some feedback.
Don't put them in our town. I don't want
I don't.
They're always across the street from her house, about 8 or 9. Right across from her house.
We got some real estate folks here.
I mean, I think they're terrible looking, and it'd be different if they put 1 or 2, but they put 15, so.
Is that not a restriction that we can put in place?
It's already there.
If it's already there, then we've got it.
Oh.
Yes.
All right, everybody good with that? We'll, there again, bring it up in the open meeting. Library, exterior maintenance, project committee, why I put this on there for the work session is that we need to seal the outside, put a seal coat on it, and we need to repair the fence around the garden. The up and down pickets are in pretty good shape, but the boards behind it, the 2x4s that go parallel to the ground, they're coming loose and the pickets are coming loose. So I put this on here to get council to give me the authority to get a estimate on what it would cost to fix the fence, seal the fence, and seal the building. Any feedback?
I hadn't noticed it, but if it needs doing, I think we need to after we get bids for it.
Right. See, what we did on this building, we let it age for over a year before we put the sealer coat on it, so that it would have that older look. The library is to that point now where it needs the seal coat. So, if that's what the council wants, then I will get some estimates on what it would take to not only fix the fence, but seal the building itself. Now, there was something else that they wanted to bring up about the library, somebody.
I did, the project committee, I brought it up at our last work session, and so that we can get the library up and running more hours than it's running. It's only running, 4 hours a month? And get it running and get it in better shape and better tended to, and maybe use the building for other things too. It just sits there most of the time, not being used. And utilities and all are kind of high for an unused building. So I wanted to get a project committee together to try to get it up and running, and then to figure out what else we could use it for. Like maybe as summertime comes, for a story hour or children's thing, or a lot of even small towns do that a little bit in the summertime. Maybe a reading club for seniors, or it just sits there and not being used. And so I'm gonna make a motion at the meeting that we have a projects committee. I've already talked to several people that are willing to do it.
Okay.
And start trying to use it.
All right. We'll bring it back up at the meeting then, and we'll get the consensus of the council.
You know, some food for thought on the exterior of the library, that sounds like a real good project. The fence and
No,
the
I'm
fence
sorry.
and the fence in the garden sounds like a real good project for an Eagle Scout or a church youth group.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
Yeah,
That's a good idea.
there was, the Eagle Scout did the sidewalk in there. I don't know if you've seen it or not, but the brick sidewalk in the, that was an Eagle project. The shelves in the library were Eagle projects. So yes, it's a good possibility I might find somebody to do that. Look into it. Next item is the alcohol license, retail consumption dealer. What we've got now is the license, annual license is $5,000. That's after the initial $2,500 for the first year. We have a small business in town that is going to have to shut down part of their business because they don't have the $5,000 to renew the license. It was my wishes that we could have a starting fee that is affordable, and then the second year would be predicated, their amount is over or under certain figures as to how much their license would cost, so that we don't lose the little mom and pop operations, but then we're also in a position where we would like to get more revenue from, say, a big restaurant that comes into town in the future. So, talk to Mr. Sears about it, and you might, at this point, reiterate what we're talking about and how it would
Well,
work.
of course, again, like with everything, there's several options here. You could reduce the fee. 5,000 is just the maximum amount that you can charge. Most jurisdictions take a look at it from an incentive standpoint to generate numbers of restaurants. So there's some towns that only charge $2,500 is the maximum amount. A lot of them do charge $5,000 is the maximum amount. I couldn't tell you because I've not done a survey what the average around this area might be on that. Now, what the mayor had talked about doing was looking at it from the standpoint of revenue generation is basing the fee. And I've never seen one that way. But we do recognize, even in yours, that, you know, beer and wine licenses from premise construction, consumption are much lower than whatever you have in there for the liquor side. So, but even on the state level, they charge a greater amount for the on-premise distilled spirits than they do for the beer and wine licenses. You know, as a thought, and I'm not sure what this particular establishment generates, but I don't know why you couldn't set some kind of limit so that you say, even for the distilled spirits, if you only have $10,000 in alcohol sales related to distilled spirit, then, you know, the license fee is $2,500. Anything over $10,000, you know, we're not getting into the food sales side, but only the alcohol side. And the majority of, I don't know, they're all capable of filing that and showing what those sales might be. So then if you get ABC comes in and, you know, they're at $9,000 and they pay the $2,500 fee, and then they come in the next year and they show they make $12,000, then they're gonna pay the $5,000 fee. So I don't know why you can't do that, but that's what I would recommend, is taking a look at that and crafting the ordinance in that way. That way you won't get caught if one of the larger chains that you know is gonna generate a whole lot more money from alcohol is coming in.
This is for everybody, not just for this one business, correct?
It would
Well,
be
it
everybody.
would be, yeah.
Say,
For one person, correct? You had one person ask about it, correct?
Well, there's only,
Yeah.
as far as I know, there's only one
Now,
now.
we go grow.
Yeah.
yeah, we only have the one in town, but we would, you know, we're suggesting something reasonable, like $2,000 for the first year, and then the second year would be determined by the amount of income, as Mr. Sears said. And that way, new big business come in, steak, big restaurant, which we will have one of these days. I might not see it, but then it would be judged on the amount of revenue for that first year would go up to 5,000 or whatever, but it would be spelled out in the new ordinance.
Would we just need to amend this ordinance that we have now?
Just to amend the ordinance.
Just amend that section.
Okay.
I like the graduated, what you suggested.
Good, all right. Let's bring that back up in the meeting. What? Don't have to come back up?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, we just go ahead and get their
And we
amendment
draft it up
drafted and then vote on
present
it then.
Right.
Good, good, keep it off. Y'all had asked for the personal leave policy review.
I had not seen this lately, so I was kind of surprised at what some of the things it said. But also, there was another one that, job description too, I didn't call it that, I called it employment, but I meant job description, but you sent that to me. Did you send it to everybody? Did everybody get the job description thing?
I thought so, yeah.
Some, yeah, I didn't know whether I just got it, because I didn't know whether it was on or not for sure. And Val will be able to answer this one, the thing that's always bored me to death about, and this would be on the, I don't know if it's job description or this, is when I went to the training 2 years ago, we had a whole huge session on employee records. And they emphasized us big time that we needed to be keeping real accurate records of hours and days that employee worked. And I've mentioned this already to Wendell, I don't think we're keeping it that way enough that it would satisfy them. And then I noticed in one of these pages, it says something about leave would be paid according to what was earned. And if you don't have the time recorded, how you gonna know what was earned? Am I making sense? You look puzzled.
Normally, you would reduce a salary by 28, and that would give you a projected hourly wage.
She's on hourly though. She's not on salary.
Well, then it would be whatever the hourly wage was.
You don't have to keep a record of it?
Well, you should keep that.
I am so. I work 80 hours. They quit, they took my, I don't have overtime or anything like that anymore.
There's comp time awarded, but there's not overtime. Like right now, she will be like receiving comp time in the future for this meeting.
It has to be within that pay period. You can't award comp time outside of the actual pay period that overtime occurs.
By state
Department of Labor.
regulations.
Department of Labor.
Mr. Hughes, are you familiar with that?
The FLSA is a little bit out of mind, but my understanding is that all accrued comp time has to occur during the period, or the immediate period afterwards. So
No, it has to occur in that pay period.
in that pay period.
Either that or you have to pay
By pay
overtime.
period, you mean weekly or
How do you, I don't know
monthly?
how, I don't know how they get paid, you get paid here, if it's twice a month, if it's every other week.
Yeah, every 2 weeks.
Okay, so if I have overtime for this week and my pay period ends Friday or Saturday or however your pay period ends, I have to take my comp time this week or you have to pay me overtime. I cannot carry that overtime to next week. It's against the law.
We also need to look at the hourly, the yearly rate, because if you make over X thousands of dollars a year, you're not subject, you're non-exempt or exempt from FLSA.
But there's 3 definitions that are within
Right.
that salaried employee, and one of them is salary, the other one is, what did I send to
So
you?
one of them is supervising other people.
You have to have employees under you to be
And I
considered
forgot the other one.
an exempt employee, and there was one more, there was 3 different standards to qualify for a salaried employee.
I understand it, but talking positions of clerk and mayor, who's ever sitting in the mayor's position, that would like to fill in during that comp time, that when they take it, it makes it a little bit more inconvenient for the mayor that's sitting in that position to be sure that the office is staffed at that time. But if you say that's where it has to be,
Well,
I
we
can
can
work
get
with
you some information on that.
okay.
And always keep in mind that a lot of this stuff has changed over the last several years. With the Obama administration's Labor Department issuing directives
It
on
was
some of that.
it was 2018 is when all that
Yeah,
changed.
and then they turned around and they were putting this, and we've had, in a lot of places, particularly with police and fire, where they were treating comp time and stuff like that, all that has changed. So, we can take a look at that and let you know what,
Okay, yeah,
how it
please,
impacts the city.
look at it and see, and we
Right.
will abide by whatever is right.
But you don't have to have a record of it, you just say you did, and it's okay?
Well, you always have to have a record of time work.
Well, that's what I'm thinking, but I
If
don't.
you're an hourly employee,
So what do you consider a record then? I wanna get this so I can
well,
dismiss
then,
it if it's not a
of course,
problem.
if you're an hourly employee, you keep time, or you punch a time clock.
Yeah.
Well,
As
that's
an
what I
hourly
thought.
employee. If you're a salaried employee, then
Yeah, I understand, but you already said the magic word.
if you're a salaried employee, then you don't keep records.
Well,
They own you.
what we do.
Now, that's where we've got into the thing with the new regulations, you know.
We write it on the wall in there on a piece of paper. You can't get any more visible than that.
You
just
write only the
vacation.
days that she's not there.
Right, but I'm a salary, so it's even 40 hours every week.
No, he said you have to have the time. Didn't you say time?
No, it's
No.
a salary.
If you're a salaried employee.
No, she's not salary.
She's hourly.
She's hourly.
She just said she's salaried.
Yeah,
She said she was salaried.
but we was told she was at hourly.
Or you told me she was hourly.
It was based on an original hourly salary that determined the,
I work 40 hours every week. That's
How do
what
you
I get
know
paid.
that then? Somebody just says, calls it what they want to call it? Is there a definition for it?
Well, it's an exempt and a non-exempt definition. So the exempt definition is somebody who does not clock in. If I work 10 hours at work, I get paid for 8. If I work 4 hours at work, I get paid for 8. I'm a salaried employee. I manage people under me. That's part of being a salaried exempt employee. Y'all are confusing everything because I don't know if you're saying she's non-exempt or exempt.
We don't seem to know.
A non-exempt is going to be an hourly employee that has a record-keeping time track, whether it be through your payroll system, a time clock, whatever else. They can only get paid for the hours they are actually working. That's what that
I submit
means.
40 hours every week.
Well, the
Well,
GMA
80
site
hours,
call
80
says it's
hours.
hourly. On the GMA site, it's got hourly listed.
all right. I think one of your questions was the manner in which the hours were kept. Is that correct statement?
I just never felt comfortable after coming back from that training that we were doing it right.
And,
And she's getting ready to go this week so she can find out.
right, but if you've got a supervisor, in this case, the mayor, that keeps up with the time, what better method could you use to keep up with the time? Because you remember when, Celine, when we had the discussion, people didn't know, so we started posting it on the wall so that all you have to do is just walk in there and there it is in front of you. So that it's up on the bulletin board, the number of hours that she takes vacation or whatever.
She just said she submits 40 hours every week.
Right, but tonight she'll be working over, so she's due comp time.
So is she hourly salary, non-exempt or exempt?
Because I used to make hourly, I got paid hourly, and I got paid overtime. But they stopped all that and changed it over to salary and then to comp time. That's the way I understood it.
That's what was decided, yeah.
Did y'all decide it?
That I didn't have to keep time anymore.
Celine, weren't you here at that time?
I can't go back that far.
Oh, okay, I remember one specific meeting where we,
I know that the labor laws have changed over the years, only being in management, I know that because I've had to go through a lot myself with employees. We used to have assistant managers where I worked, there are no more. There's a lot of reasons behind why there are not assistant managers where I work and in other places too. I do know about the exempt and let's throw away the word salary and hourly. There's an exempt and a non-exempt employee, okay? And I think what Donna classifies as is a non-exempt employee, which means that she should be clocking in every day, just like my employees clock in every day. That's how the time is kept, An exempt employee would be the manager who does not clock in every day.
That's what we decided in that meeting. That's when we made the switch over. And that she be salaried.
And that may have been 10 years ago, Wendell. What I'm saying is the labor laws have changed since then. So as an employer, which the city is an employer, they have to stay up with the current labor laws. I maybe would suggest your attorney check up on that. I have offered some information. It's pretty easy to get on the website. If you just go to georgia.dol.gov or something like that, it gives you very detailed information about how exempt and non-exempt employees are supposed to be kept, how their time tracking is done, what qualifies them as one, the fact that if you are not granting comp time within the pay period, you have to, by law, pay overtime. They're very specific rules and laws.
Okay.
And as an employer, it is the town's duty, whether you consult somebody that knows HR, maybe you should, contact an attorney or somebody that can consult you on HR updates, because you should be getting, I would want, as an employer, I would want every update, and Department of Labor changes all the time. Every update given, I would want it as an employer to make sure I'm staying in compliance. If not, you're putting yourself in a very big risk position having an employee and you're not following current labor laws.
And that last sentence is what they harped on us at GMA about, that we could get in real
Yes,
trouble.
you can get in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, by law, I think it's supposed to.
The Department of Labor is only there for the employee. They're not there for the employer.
Well, I know that.
So that's why I'm saying it's very important that the city protects itself by having updated, whether it be through a computer system, software that you might, enroll in or have subscription in. There's got to be some way for you as an employer to receive those employee updates because you have employees here. You may want to reach out to other towns and ask them how they do it. Sonoya has a lot of employees. They might be a good resource for y'all to reach out to and ask them how they do it. How do they get their Department of Labor updates? I'm sure it's not just through an attorney. I promise you that's not.
Well, Mr. Sears works closely with the town, with Newnan, and this things that you can find out for us.
City of Noonan would have it too. They've got plenty of employees there too.
The fact of the matter remains, you can hire her as an exempt or non-exempt. And you can avoid all of that stuff by having her as an exempt employee.
But she has to qualify
Has
under
to
the
qualify.
definition of exempt, and she does not. She does not have employees. She is the only employee of the town. So you have to have employees to be considered an exempt employee. That's just the Department of Labor's rules.
You can't hire her as a salaried employee.
No. There's definitions for that. It's an exempt employee, and she's not exempt, because one of the definitions is she has to have employees under her. She has to be a manager of employees. So
probably if we do that,
Then
does that
considered
answer your
a
question?
non-
That's exactly what they were telling me at GMA.
Okay.
And she'll hear it again this coming weekend. Yeah.
they may go over that. They probably should. It's very good information. But like I said, it's always changing, so it would only benefit the town to,
Get
as
updates.
you should.
Yeah.
You really should.
I will, Mr. Sears, making a note there to check this out, and we'll bring it back up, we'll bring it up,
And
whatever it takes.
I would like a copy of the job description.
Got it. Anything else on that subject, guys?
Yeah, I didn't notice until I got this thing that the days preceding and following holidays are not supposed to happen, off days are not supposed to happen without a doctor's permit. I had not noticed that until I got this new thing. In other words, no vacations, no whatever, unless it looks to me like unless you're sick. I can get somebody to write one for you. I guess you could do that. I'm just teasing, of course.
Yeah. Not exactly what it means, but,
It's not what it means?
not exactly, no. That was in there because so many people would call in sick, before and after the day of a holiday, give them a 3-day holiday rather than just the one. So that, I think that's pretty uniform throughout everybody's.
Yeah, I agree with it, I'm not arguing with it, I just don't think we're doing that.
Now, it doesn't say that you can't take earned time, holiday, if you want to take your vacation. It's talking about laying out sick, supposedly.
Okay.
Next item on there is employee health, dental insurance, reinstatement of coverage. That's it. We've had on there since January, and we need to come to a conclusion. Cynthia, I think you on the day first.
Well, I asked for some requests of some letters, and I requested a letter that you stated that she got it on December 18th. But the letter I received was dated September 14th. And I know,
I don't know, I mean, both of us have thought we don't know what letter
Okay.
you're talking.
Just imagine
I
that
give
never
you
happened.
anything I've got, but I don't have that
okay,
information.
we're just imagining that never was said then. But still, if you got this letter on the 14th that your insurance is gonna cancel by the end of the year, I think it should have been discussed, put it on the budget, y'all could put the right amount on the budget. She can find the right insurance, but I don't understand how something that is her job that got overlooked like that. Open a letter to state that her insurance was canceled. And right now, I know in the budget, y'all have the insurance amount up there for her, but based on our revenue, and how every year we are over the budget by 8,000 or 9,000, I don't understand how we can pay somebody insurance. I don't see that how we can afford it.
Anybody else have input? Because that's something we decided on a long time ago was part of the incentive of taking the job and holding the job and doing a good job was the fact that we did provide insurance as well as the salary or whatever. Now, we are now taking that back away without having raised the income in many years. So, I, for one, don't think it's quite fair, but let's hear from everybody.
Well, I got one more thing to say, I'm sorry. Back when that was brung up, back in 2006, from my understanding, it was brung up because we was gonna annex some land in. We were gonna get a big subdivision, so her hours increased, and all that stuff came with it, based on us annexing that land in. It never happened. So our revenue tax didn't go up, nothing happened, so this had happened, been going on ever since 2006. And to me, after that first year when we didn't get the land annexed in, someone should have said, okay, we can't do this. We're not making that money we projected that we were gonna be making. So it's not that I'm trying to say she's not doing a good job and that she don't deserve it. And y'all did make the decision, but y'all made the decision on more money coming into the town. That never happened.
We got rid of a full-time employee when that happened to compensate for that loss.
And I saw the budget, and by the look of it, she was making more than two of the full-time employees made together, if I looked at it right. So
What now, repeat that?
the first couple of years, it looked like she was making more than both of them put together was making, if I'm looking at it right. Now, like I said, I'm new at this, I'm learning,
Right.
but I don't.
No, that's
I don't know what she's speaking of, so I can't address it really.
She's saying that your salary after Robin left was equal to both your two salaries, and that's not.
It's based on 2006 or something I had. Like I said, I looked at it, I'm new at this, I'm learning, so I
Yeah.
make mistakes, but I'm trying to
That's
figure
why
this
we-
out.
Not when she
bring
made
it out.
$50,000 a year, no way it doubled.
So back in 2006, how much did she make?
Who?
The other administrative assistant?
She made
She was
45, 50? I don't know exact.
yeah, I think it was closer to 50, but I'll have to look, be sure.
Okay, back in 2007, it was 58,000, I guess, for both of y'all, right?
Couldn't never vote.
Uh-uh.
I'm looking at this right.
It's all right. I want to get this straight.
This way. Employee.
Personal services employee, 58,480.
So that was based on two of them, right, back in 2007, or just one? I'm not accounting, I didn't take
I
no
don't
classes.
even remember when Robin left. Do you remember what year she left?
left?
I don't remember.
And also back then, I know time had changed, but we were paying only 3,000 in insurance back in 2008, but
2007-ish?
This was, as of December the 31st, 2007.
She may have left in the middle of that year.
This would have only been one person here.
there was just one
Come
person.
here and look at this.
I think that's probably the year she left, and that was probably half of hers and mine, or something. I don't know, I'd have to,
See.
I'd have to go break it out and look.
See the exact date that she left. But that could not have been both.
No,
And it could not
it
have
would have
been
to
one.
be a year and a half.
Right, yeah. It's split between part of the year that Robin was here and the full year that she was here.
Well, was I mistaken about what I heard about the reason for her increase in hours? And us being generously paying our insurance due to us making more money the following year? Due to the annexing of the property, subdivision coming in, the big,
Please repeat, I'm sorry. I don't follow.
all right, year 2006. Did we have a project that we were gonna annex some land in, and the subdivision was gonna get built?
Yes,
Now, isn't at the same time that y'all decided to increase her wages and also provide insurance for full amount? Due to all the extra work she will need to be doing?
not necessarily the only reasons, no.
What was the reason then?
Well, because last thing we wanted was two people to leave and leave us sitting here without anything. But like I said, what you see there is part of one and all of another. If you need the actual from that time, we can get that for you for one employee.
No, sir, I don't. I just, I know everybody, and she also wants to get this out the way and fixed and done. So, I just,
Don't we need to get a quote for the updated figure? Because I'm sure it's changed.
But
Since
the
we-
insurance, we've got that. We,
I haven't gotten it since December.
Right, so I'm
Yes.
sure it's different now.
Yeah.
yeah, in December, it was actually $21 less than what had been used last year. So it was actually less.
Okay. Is there any way that council can see all the plans that are provided and be a part of choosing this plan since the town is paying for it? So-
Right, but when you say all, there's not that many out there.
GMA offers several different,
Several different programs
Right.
within GMA.
yeah,
Right.
but I think she's
That's-
asking about insurance,
No, no, that's what
the
I'm,
coverage, right?
yeah, I'm talking about everything that GMA offers.
Mhm.
Yeah, just the different,
Yeah, we
Insurance
can
plan.
do that, yeah, but, well, they really tighten down on who, yeah, I see what you're talking about.
but open
Several
Yeah.
plans.
Yeah, through GMA.
Mhm.
open enrollment may be over, so we may not can even do it until December again. I don't know, I haven't contacted them.
Well, we will get that information for you.
Well, the letter we got on December the 4th said that quote was only good for 60 days, and it's past that 60 days now, so we're gonna need a different quote anyway. And also, one of those things I think it was, one of them said that when we signed this thing and agreed to it, it says that we have to have seen all the options, not just selected options. It's on, okay, this one's got, well, this is the one that's out of date, I guess. There's one place in here on one of them that says that when we sign it, we're saying we've seen all the available options. And we have not, the town's not been presented with all of the options. We were presented with selected options. And also, when I talked to the lady, Eileen, I forget her last name, she suggested that, what is it?
Harris.
Harris, that we stick with the POS group, not the PPO.
All right, we'll get all those and let's look at everything.
Well, we could have had it done within the 60 days, but passed it, the first time, so here we are 3 months later.
We'd have enough information.
It was basically transferring the same thing she had, overpaying less.
We knew we didn't have enough information.
You good right now?
Oh, yeah, I got notes. What I need to do.
All right, everybody good with that?
That's awesome.
All righty, we will, at this point, conclude the work session. And because we're already late, we'll go into the regular meeting. In your packet, whoops, excuse me, so that we can keep it a regular meeting, we'll all stand for the pledge of allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, can we establish the quorum? The minutes of the minutes for the work session of February the 5th and the council meeting of February the 5th. You've had the packet for a while. If you've looked over, what is your pleasure as to acceptance, additions, corrections?
Move we accept them.
There's a move to accept both. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections to those minutes? Hearing none, all in favor of the acceptance as written, please signify by raised hand. Unanimous.
We need to amend the agenda.
What'd you say?
We need to amend the agenda.
Oh, we need to do that already, all right. We've had a request for an amendment to the agenda. Would you state the amendment, Polly?
The first one was I wanted to present the committee for I moved that the town council approve a projects committee to start with the library and then move on to other projects.
And the second?
I move that the job description, and I'm gonna put job description / responsibilities of the town clerk be discussed openly at the town council meeting to perhaps adopt something. That's too long a motion, isn't it? So we can see if we wanna make some changes. So the short motion is I move that we bring the job description / responsibilities of the town clerk before the council.
Okay, we have two motions on the, we have two motions on the floor. We'll take those as, one to start with. Is there a second to these motions?
Second.
There's a second. Any corrections or additions to those, or any comments? Hearing none, all in favor of adding this to the agenda, please signify by raised hand. Unanimous. I have brought up a need of a project committee. And there again, you will have to turn around and put that in the form of a motion to hit the floor.
I move that the town approve a projects committee to begin with, working with the library and its uses. And then the project could move on to the committee could move on to other projects.
Okay, all right. There's a motion on the floor. Do you need that restated, Donna? Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or additions or questions reference to that motion? Hearing none, all in favor of this acceptance, please signify by raised hand. Unanimous. The second motion?
I move that the job description presented to us via email be reviewed and approved, or changed, things added or deleted. Did you get that?
Review or changed, job description.
Yeah.
Okay.
Reviewed, changed, or,
Are you doing it now, or are you just
that's
saying?
my motion to do that.
You can't do it now.
I
No,
thought you said make a motion.
she's making a motion that this,
I thought you meant wanted to do it
I
now.
thought that's what she was doing too.
huh? What? You want the motion restated?
No,
Okay.
go ahead.
All right, is there a second? There's a second. Any further discussion or questions? Now, you want something further than the job description that is already available?
I would like for that's been sent to us to look at to see if there's anything that we wanted changed or added or deleted or whatever, yeah. Is that what we're doing now? Are you
No,
on the floor? Are you doing it?
I wanted to, in the form of comments, reference to the motion that's on the floor, is what I was doing. I was making the reference to the motion that's on the floor. Any additions or corrections to that motion? And I have a question. You want to review it again, more than just what's written? You just want it reviewed,
Or add or delete any items that's on it.
okay?
If
All right,
the
any other
group sees
corrections
fit.
or additions to those, into that motion? Hearing none, the motion on the floor is a question. Please signify your acceptance by a raised hand. And opposed, like sign, not any. Okay. The next thing on the agenda is the approval of the town attorney. We have Mr. Sears with us here tonight. We have discussed the possibilities of his being our city attorney. And at this point, I will open the floor if you have questions of council, or if you have questions of the mayor, or if you have questions of the attorney. Raise your hand, be recognized, and we'll go from there.
I have no questions.
Glad to have you.
Yeah.
We've been on one a long time here.
Well, now, anybody interested in the compensation?
Thought you did all that.
I did, but I just wanted to be sure that everybody's good with it. That's the reason I bring it up. Got any problems, they hear from me right now. But, somebody put that in the form of a motion that Mr. Sears be accepted as our city attorney.
I move that Mr. Brad Sears be our official town of Sharpsburg attorney, beginning earlier today.
Second.
There's a second. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor signify by raised hand. Yay! Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. We
Yeah.
appreciate you
Yeah.
being here.
Well, I
And-
appreciate it.
Please holler at us when we're doing something wrong.
Well, just as, for example, of course, I'm Brad Sears from San Diego Sears. For those of you who don't know me, I've been doing government work and have been city attorney for the city of Newnan for 35 years, almost 35 years, and have been doing municipal work since 1977. And in looking at the charter that the city currently has, I was involved in preparing that charter back in 1978 when it was introduced. At that time, Mr. Theo Mann was the main contact for the city of Sharpsburg. But I was involved in the development of the charter at that time, so it's kind of like going full circle now back, and I appreciate this opportunity and look forward to working with the town.
You remember who the mayor was then?
I think Mr. Alvin Arrow.
Mr. Arrowwood?
Y'all missed something. You
I
thought he was mayor.
Oh, but I have always heard that Mr. Arrowwood was a half step out. If that's the case.
We don't acknowledge that around here because there was a lot of paperwork that would have to be changed. But, yeah, Mr. Sears has been in government 35, 40 years and he's still learning, he said.
That's exactly right.
It keeps changing on us.
That's-
Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will adhere to the agenda and any old business that needs to come before council. Public comments, I'm gonna start back here on the left side the way I usually do. Mr. Cole?
I'm good. I had all my saying earlier.
Ms. Daly? Somebody say something.
Over here for the
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know why y'all are making motions to amend the agenda, why these items are not on the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. It just seems very confusing for us, and it seems to be confusing for y'all. It seems like this is the second meeting in a row that you're having to amend the agenda. Were these items not brought up in time to have them posted on the agenda?
It was my mistake. I did not put the one she had asked for, the employee leave policy, but that was supposed to be on there, but about the job description, I had no clue. That's
That
brand
was a
new.
slash, that was together.
And then the project committee, I left that off. It was
Yeah, I
my
think y'all
mistake.
talked about having
So-
that this month so you could vote on it, right? Because committees have to be voted on.
Yeah, and haven't we skipped something? We haven't talked, we amended the thing to do the.
You amended the agenda, but you never
then
talked
we didn't
about
deal
the
with it on the agenda.
item additions.
I'm glad you know, because I
Well,
was
that's the
thinking.
one I'm saying, I'm kind of confused how we just kind of went over all that. I guess that's the problem with missing
went over
things
the-
on agendas.
We amended the agenda, and then we didn't deal with the motion. We amended it, but then we didn't put it on the agenda and discuss it. Unless I was absent.
He asked if anyone had any other comments on it. Isn't that the discussion point?
Okay, maybe we
Yeah.
discussed it. I don't remember discussing it. Do you?
You've
Well,
got
that's
both of them in the
comment.
minutes, don't you?
You got, I'm sorry.
You've got both of those where we brought them up in the minutes, did you? What did we bring up?
I mean,
We
you
took
brought
the
up the
Project committee and the
discussion of job
description.
description for the clerk and duties, and you brought up the project committee for the library.
That was two things.
But I thought the committees had to be voted on. Yes, we are going, she makes a motion to amend the agenda, which you did. Now you need to talk about the things you added to the agenda, which were those two. And from what understanding is that a committee has to be voted on, but you never actually did that. You just kind
Yes, she
of,
did.
you voted on having a committee?
No, she did. Project committee, she approved project committee work on the library and then any other projects.
That's what my motion
She made the
was.
motion,
You made the
Elizabeth
motion
seconded,
to add
and he
it.
asked for discussion. Nobody had any, and it carried.
Well, that
But
comes,
that was just a motion to amend the agenda.
exactly.
No, I got two of them. I got two
I don't
separate
have,
ones
I
here.
don't remember it. I remember,
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. Do it again.
Well,
Rewind.
I'm sorry, I must have been sleeping too. Okay, let's go back a little bit. Project committee. That's what was confusion, right? Project
Well,
committee.
you added two items to the agenda.
Right.
The motion was made to add these to the agenda,
Right.
and then you asked if there was any further discussion in adding them to the agenda.
But
Any
there's no
further
big
discussion in adding them to the agenda, and it was carried that you added them to the agenda, but then nothing ever else was said about it, and you just skipped on. I mean, that's what I got from it.
You got it, it's twice, it's on there twice. I've got the amended agenda for the two things, and then down below it is the
I
project
asked your
committee.
attorney.
If you'll- When you, replay your tape, you'll see.
Okay.
That's,
Good idea, if I can hear on that.
all right. Now, we'll redo, if you wish, the project committee.
All right, I'll start this one.
Okay, now, we're starting a new, probably if you would like to, at this point, right, make a motion, then we will, once the motion and the second's on the floor, we'll have discussion. So, make your motion reference to the project committee that I thought we'd already done.
But we didn't vote on it, no. Anyway, I move that the town approve a projects committee to begin with the library and then to move on with other things as, need arises.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor, is there a second?
Well, who's gonna be on the committee?
I'm not doing that, you
Let's
know
get
that
a,
last time.
let's get a second so we can discuss, because I got questions. Got a second? Now, discussion. You had a comment.
Well, she wants to get a committee, who's gonna be on the committee?
Yeah, now,
I need to answer that, I guess, because I'm the person doing the committee. I have not chosen anybody to be presented back to you all. I've talked to 4 or 5 people, several people are willing to serve at various capacities on various committees. But we're gonna start with the library. I didn't invite them this time because the last time I did committee, it didn't get a second and I had to uninvite all these people to be volunteers, and I'm not gonna do that again.
but you got a motion and a second, so we're discussing at this point. Now, is this going to be the same people that go from one project to another? Is that what you're suggesting?
Yeah, unless we, yeah, to start.
Okay.
Or any suggestions from the floor?
And now, unlike the committee that we had at one time before, we know that now that these, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Sears, a committee that meets as a part of the town is under the same restrictions as a meeting.
Yeah, I know that. They have-
And
I know
public
that.
has to be invited, minutes have to be taken, just like a regular meeting.
I know.
Okay. Any further discussion?
How many you want on the committee?
Start with 4 or 5. You want to be on
Nope.
it? I would like to set a time and date specific too after we get the people together.
Well, since you're gonna be voting on stuff, you're gonna have to have an odd number, wouldn't you?
Yeah, good idea. 5.
Anything else? Cynthia? Hearing none, all in favor signify by raised hand, please. Okay, unanimous. Now, back to where we were at that point with public comments, and I think we will stop right here.
I just was confused by all that, so
Okay.
I just was wondering why you were having to really amend agendas, so.
Yeah. Clerk's comments? Comments from council, starting with Polly coming this way.
Yeah, we still didn't do job descriptions, but I'm willing to put that off till next time.
I was under the impression that you was gonna email it to us and was gonna discuss it.
The job description? Did y'all get one? Normally,
I
we
didn't,
okay, just postpone it, that's good.
Comment?
I think it makes it a little tough when the agenda comes out on Thursday and there's no one here Friday to add what was requested on the agenda. Is there a better way that we can handle that next time so it doesn't happen again? Or any other suggestions?
I'll never take a Friday off.
Well,
What?
I mean,
Problem we have is that sometimes some things that are requested to be on the agenda come in at the last minute. Therefore, we have to come up with, to amend the agenda, or you could get it out on Friday evening, but I hear what you're saying. We'll make that every effort.
Just to clarify, mine went very early.
right, mine as well.
Okay. Comment?
I have several things I noticed when I went on the website. There's something we just need to update several things. I went up on the website, on the town council members. I have not seen me and Elizabeth name at all, and all the old council member names are still there. And also on the website for GMA, same thing. But I'm sorry, I take that back. Me and Elizabeth is included with the old one as well. So we need to get that updated.
Okay, thank you.
And your water contact's old.
Water contact is on?
The water, Turin water contact, it's old on there. I think it calls for Paula,
Paulette.
Paulette.
I had gotten an additional website, notice that something was incorrect on it too.
Yes, a lot of things I think we looked at again.
Do you remember specifically what it was?
I'm sure it's on the pad at the telephone at home, but I don't
Okay.
remember. I'll tell you what, I'll go home and look at it and make a list if I see anything.
What else? Cynthia?
I'm just throwing this out up in the air. We was talking about keeping record for hours. I did look into some things like a time clock that you can either do a punch or thumbprint. So when we do discuss that, I did look into it and it costs like $130-some, $39 for Office Depot. So I'm throw that up there while I got it in my mind.
You mentioned that to me one time, Administrator, when we were talking about that, getting a time clock.
And I was just surprised to find out it was not that expensive. I was thinking it would be $1,000 or something. The reason why we haven't had one.
Cynthia, you're mumbling, I can't hear you. Go
I
ahead.
thought they were gonna be expensive, but the reason why we haven't had something like that yet. I was just surprised that it was only $139.
That may be per month for service, I bet.
It was the machine itself,
Oh,
so
okay.
the service part, I don't know.
What else?
That's all.
Ms. Susan, you have any further comments, sir?
No, Mr. Mayor, except again, thank you, and I look forward to serving.
Great. There are no other comments or questions or anything else to come before council. A motion to adjourn would be in order.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved. Thank you, everybody. I
One hard
appreciate
to
it.
put away, yeah, that old saying about horses. Something like that.
Did you get that address thing?
Yes, yes.
What did they do?
Um, They,
God, I forgot to ask,
they decided that they were gonna
what kind of funds are, what do reimburse
Oh,
for
they
our
did.
classes? I
She
was
told
told
me
by
that, no, we
somebody
couldn't do
that
that
I
if
could
it
bring
come
you
from
the
up
receipts
above.
for your
Well, after I spoke to you, I went there and she said, do it all her, and she said the same thing, that it,
These two
Unless it
towns
was
are
two
about our
separate
size. They don't pay
pieces.
any on the insurance. And the
Um,
salaries, so look how much
and
less
then
they are.
I guess he went up there
And she only works
and
32 hours.
she called him 10 minutes later and said, good
She works
news, we
40.
can
But they
recognize
have
it as
no
68.
Insurance, and this was.
She told me, we talked back and forth for 3 different times
I don't know how they
today.
manage on
And finally, she said, no,
3
they
days a
can
week,
do it.
because they do a
I
lot
said,
of
can you
stuff, you know.
change your address? Another number, up or down? She said, well, yeah, we knew that. Wouldn't call back again. But no,
I
can't
mean,
go there.
so they probably gone. I would have thanked her, because I was just sitting there scratching my head.
When we moved here, there was something
Right.
going on. They said, what number you want? I said, well,
They didn't tell you the number to use?
so we picked 85, and that's what we wound up with.
Yeah. Well, I
But
think at first she said a number and it was not
You want to be on
close
the
to
library committee?
68. It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
30.
I knew you were on, but I'm
It just
talking to
didn't
him.
think-
Oh, you wanna be on the
And he
Oh,
said-
ladies first,
like I
absolutely.
said, she told me that it would have to be,
That sounds like something
I said, could it be the?
up my alley.
No,
And
it's
too,
a
I
big
tell you
load.
what I'd love to have happen
I told him that.
is,
Around,
I'm
I
sure
had a
Amy's
chance
gonna be
to
doing as far as
everything,
summer
called me
job.
back.
And I know
I
obviously.
said, no, can't do that.
You're kidding, she might want to keep the library
I
open.
may want, a couple hours a week, I don't know how much I can commit her, but I have mentioned
There's
to
an
her
85.
If I can make sure that
Your daddy brought that up.
about easily.
No, about somebody doing it, about a year ago, and it never went anywhere.
Either a senior, either a senior.
We can't have a high school student, it has to be an adult.
Everything.
It has to be an adult.
Yeah.
Angela's a sophomore, so. But no, let's
Well,
talk to.
I'm gonna have to get a different mailbox
The olive
because
branch up here at Sharpsburg.
Yeah.
I've seen her, she doesn't shut the
We've
the
got
mailbox
mountains
area
up
and
here.
just drives off.
I'm already
By the time I get home, my mailbox is wide open.
What y'all gonna do? Your daddy does it.
What we did, well,
So I'm
yeah,
thinking
we
about
all.
getting a lock on it.